My father is a guitarist. And my mom and sister are both singers. And my name is Morris. And I'm a sort of crossbreed between a producer, a pianist, and a 17-year-old kid with horrible procrastination issues. My family used to own a dark green Volvo station wagon with a CD player. Now, this CD player used to play me the most beautiful songs while I was strapped into the back seat. Anything from the likes of Air to Vivaldi. The CD player intrigued me, and it was shortly after I figured out how to use it that I broke it, because I tried to put 2 CDs in at the same time. Now, I was upset by the fact that I couldn't listen to music outside of my living room stereo. So little 5-year-old me thought, fuck it, I can do this myself. I picked up one of my dad's guitars, and this is where the horror for my parents began. But after a while, I got sick of the guitar. The bar chords were hurting my little fingers, and I was honestly not quite sure if I was right or left-handed yet. So I climbed up on the piano stool in the living room and started touching the keys. Now, the thing with the guitar is that you can play it very quietly in your room. But with the piano, this wasn't the case. I would sit there for hours playing little knuckle songs on repeat. And I think this is when my parents decided that they should get me a keyboard ASAP. I managed to borrow a little plastic one from my uncle. And I played it, and I fell in love with it. I would play an F minor chord, and then I could use the pitch wheel to turn into a G chord. My mind was blown. Now, at this point, my dad figured out that instead of having to use backing tracks from YouTube, he could sit me and my keyboard in the corner of his office and play guitar over whatever it was I was doing. It was not too long after this that I discovered the wonders of making my own music. I got an old laptop and downloaded Music Maker Free, which might be the worst piece of software made by humans in history, but I loved it. I would make basic drum beats, and then my sister could sing over them, and then I could add an organ sound after. And who doesn't like the sound of an organ accompanied by a 10-year-old girl singing gibberish, right? I went on like this for some time. After a while, I was making more intricate drum patterns, creating real song structure. At this point, my mom thought it was important for me to expand my musical knowledge. They sent me to an extracurricular production school where I was taught by some of the best musicians I have met to date. This is where my journey kicked into the second gear. I was writing songs for my classmates who were all aspiring rap artists for some reason, and I would go home, spend hours making their voices sound crispy and auto-tuned. The kids at school never really liked my music, though. They'd often taunt me and make fun of the music kid, which made for some pretty difficult years. Then all of a sudden, my mom decided that it'd be a good idea for our family to move across the ocean to an island where me and my sister would go to school in bamboo huts with a bunch of vegan people. Let's say I was thrilled. After having settled, I came to realize that I didn't have to hide my music here. People were open to my passion. Hell, they even praised me for it, which made me feel at home. I managed to find a team of solid musicians and creatives who were bouncing ideas off each other constantly. There was a sort of competitiveness within this team, but I thrived in a competitive environment, working hard to get an edge on everybody always. I was living by myself at the time, and when COVID hit, I was forced to go back to Europe, to my family. First, I felt very isolated. I felt far removed from everything and everyone. But I wasn't alone. Select few lucky bastards were in the exact same position as I was, and we decided that instead of drowning in self-pity, we could help each other stay afloat. I met up with people from all over Europe every 2 weeks or so, which gave me something to look forward to. It took the stress off my shoulders. And after all this time, I finally felt the space to make music again. But the music had changed. At first, I was very confused about this because the music had never changed on me before. It wasn't until recently that I realized that it wasn't the music that had changed. It was me. I'd been forced to become less social, and so had my music. I was less focused on collaborating and more on whatever sounded good then and there. Right before summer, my music went through what I like to call diversity puberty, growing in all these weird, wonderful ways. It allowed me to explore more genres than I knew existed. And after a while, I even had to start naming them. Things like hypertrance, disco trap, and a couple of unholy concoctions between classical music and Kanye West in the early 2000s. Now you imagine what that sounds like. 6 months later, I was standing in my porch in Amsterdam in the cold of October. I was with Italo Azario, conversating. We're talking about what other than Greenstone topics. Now, I had been quite out of touch with the concept of Greenstone and even Green School at the time, as it had been nothing more than something behind my computer screen for over 8 months. I really didn't want to speak about music. It seemed boring and repetitive. Everybody knew I did music, and I was aware of that. My father has an acquaintance. His name is Bert Barton. Now, Bert Barton is this big cult-like figure who's good at everything. One of these things is music. And what he would do is he would take these sensors, hook them up to trees, and then he'd be able to make music out of the readings he got. Italo and I went to visit him in his little studio in the industrial district of Amsterdam. There he showed me how he did what he does, and at first it all seemed like a bunch of wizardry to me. Now, when I don't understand things, I tend to do deep dives on the internet, looking at Wikipedia articles and obscure YouTube videos uploaded in 2011. And while I was doing this, I fell in love with the concept of having no control over the music I was producing. I decided that this was going to be my new area of interest, but it had to be bigger, better, and grander. While standing on that porch in October, I had my little eureka moment. At first, it seemed like a completely unreachable goal, but as time went by and my area of interest morphed into an obsession, I could see the light at the end of the tunnel. Now, I would like to take the next 5 minutes to showcase my findings. I need a volunteer, though, which I think you already know who is. Oh, yeah. Also, a bit of an epilepsy warning, because it's strobe lights. Can I get a hand for Kyle King, everybody? Just sit down there. Okay. Why don't you go sit down in that chair, if I Kyle? Yes. Now, what do you do for a living, man? Any hobbies, kids?
Do you really want to know?
Not really.
Okay. Yeah. It's a long story.
So, what's your star sign?
Well, I'm an Aquarius.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. Okay. Let's get the other sensor. I think you're covering it, actually.
This isn't a polygraph. Or is there any...
Well, let's say it might be. Can you move up a little bit? There we go. All right. So what are your biggest secrets, Becco?
I knew this was coming. Anybody else want to take...
Give me your index finger. All right. I'm going to have to move that.
You promised me no shenanigans.
Oh, I can't promise anything, Becco. All right. Most of the sounds you'll hear for the next 5 minutes originate from Pat Cowell's heart rate, blood pressure, galvanic skin resistance, and movement. Thank you. That's it. It's all him. All him.
He's great, man. He's almost out of body. I'm telling you. Really, really.